As a mother, wife, and divorce attorney for over 15 years, experience has taught me a lot about how to deal with times of uncertainty, transition, and facing opportunities for growth. I'm happy you're joining me for this part of the journey. The decision to divorce is a difficult decision. It is one that people live with for many years, oftentimes before they actually decide to take action on that decision. My guest here today is Kim Griffith, and she's going to talk with us about her decision to divorce, when she made the decision, what it was like, what the concerns and fears were while she was contemplating that decision, and what the divorce process was like and life after divorce. Now, Kim has been a guest on our show before. She is a life and leadership coach. She does amazing work in helping people work through triggers. She's the founder of the Wave Institute. But today she's here to share with us her personal story. Kim, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, absolutely. I think this is such an important message, and I'm happy to share to help anyone who goes through it.
So as we get started today, I think it would be helpful if you can tell us who are the people in your immediate family?
My ex-husband, he's now remarried, actually. And Tori, my daughter, she's 18, she's a senior in high school. And then I have two stepkids who are grown and gone that are Clark's kids.
And when did you actually get a divorce?
I got it for going on 4 years.
All right. Now, how long did you live with that decision, the question of whether or not you would get a divorce?
Well, probably for about 3 years before I actually took action. I started to seriously contemplate it.
And what was it in your life that was happening that was sort of leading you in that direction?
Well, we didn't have a lot of chaos and we didn't argue, which made it even more difficult, honestly, to make the decision. But I had hit a place, I had started to do some growth, personal growth, and I had hit a place where I just got real with myself that, I had married a doctor and I had all of this, pretty house and cars, and yet I was dying inside. And I had to get real about that and realize that I wasn't in alignment. And we had a big age difference. So there was some dynamics going on that I couldn't get through. And I worked really hard before I made the decision to try different things to make sure. And I think it was we hit a place where I just knew it was time for us both. I wasn't being really fair to him and giving him what he really deserved. And I wasn't happy. I just couldn't find that place. So I made the decision. But I had a lot that I went through before I actually took action.
Well, I want to talk a little bit about that. I mean, I know, one of the things that holds people back is fear. What were some of your fears about divorce?
Oh, my goodness. Okay. I had a lot of fear about, I'll just go through them. Financial fear was huge. I had just, I was growing my business, but I was not at a place where I was quite there, going to be able to take care of myself. So I had to face that fear and stretch myself. And just being the fear of failure, just having to face the fear of failure that I didn't make it with my family, right? And I just failure, and having to work through that guilt. I had to face the fear of actually just being alone, and I was pretty codependent, so that was really hard for me to actually contemplate being alone. And being a little older, thinking, am I going to be alone forever? Having to face that fear and trusting that I'm going to find my way. And then the fear of losing my friends. We had couples that we would go out with, and the fear of losing my friends. And some I did. And, learning to be okay with that. And then what else? I had some fear around
I know a common fear that I often hear from people when they're considering divorce is, how that will change their relationship with their child.
Oh gosh, yes, that's so huge. I mean, my fear of what it would do to my daughter was big because I'm also in this business, so I know what it can do to kids if you don't handle it well. And so the fear of that and how it would impact her was huge. And would she, I mean, I'm going to be really honest and vulnerable. The fear of her hating me because I'm the one making the decision. And, that was a big one. And, I knew I was going to be leaving and he was going to be, the house was going to be his. And so I was going to change my lifestyle. And so would Tori want to come with me, or would she rather stay with Clark? So this massive fear in all of that.
So where did you turn? Like, how did you work through the fear and take action in spite of the fear?
I got support. I had a really great business partner friend at the time that I counted on a lot to work through some of these fears and process them. And I did a lot of personal growth. I'm not going to lie. I had to dig deep to actually have the courage and strength to make the decision I knew I needed to make for both of us. And so, yeah, I did. I got a lot of support.
When it came time to tell your then husband, how did you work through that conversation, and how did it go?
Well, it was kind of progressive with us. So, it wasn't just one big boom. He wasn't prepared. So I kind of had little conversations throughout that kind of progressed. And then when I was ready to make the decision, I just looked at him and said, I just have to be honest. I can't give you what you need, and I am trying, and I've tried, and I just have to be real, and I just need to move forward and get a divorce. It's time for us to do that. And at first he had, it was not easy. It was just not easy. And, the
kind of the reaction.
The reaction is, and I think it's hard because a lot of people don't know how to handle that kind of, he handled it well. I'm not gonna act like he just lost it, but it was hard, and his reaction was hard for me, and I had to really validate his frustration and his feelings, and then not get so defensive, right? And I just stayed listening, but through that conversation and me not reacting, and we were able to kind of come to a calm place and come to the agreement that it was probably best for both of us.
Now,
even though he didn't want it, I'm not saying he wanted it.
Right. At the outset of, kind of beginning the divorce process, did you all talk about what kind of divorce you wanted to have?
Yes. Once we got through that initial conversation, we did talk about the importance of staying, keeping it cordial. And I actually didn't really, know the understanding of collaborative that much. I didn't
because you all decided to do a collaborative divorce.
Yes, we did. Yes. And but I knew I wanted to walk through it in the highest way possible and not have it affect our daughter, the least impact possible on her. And honestly, I wanted to keep our relationship somewhat intact. That was a really big, important thing to me. It's a value of mine to stay connected as much as possible. Now, I know that's not possible for everyone, but for me, I was committed to doing it as much as possible.
Because even though you were deciding to end the marriage, you all still had a friendship at the end.
Yes. We did.
What surprised you about the divorce process? What challenges did you encounter in the process?
Well, just once I will tell you, the grief, the different emotions that came over me that were really unexpected. Grief, that, I lost that ideal marriage or what I would have wanted to, feel the grief or massive fear would come over me. And, just being with that, because it would be strong at times. I'm just not going to sugarcoat this. It would just be like, oh my God, what did I do? Lots of fear and grief. And so I would have to, because it almost made me, maybe I made the wrong decision. Maybe I need to go back.
Really cause you to second guess yourself.
Mm-hmm. And so I had to really look at that and then ask the hard question, if you went back, how would that be for him and you? And you're not being honest. You would just continue to live that way. And so I had to really dig deep.
It is changing. The status quo is sort of our default, right? And so anytime we make a change to the status quo, it takes us way outside of our comfort zones.
Yes.
And you felt that.
It was a huge stretch for me across the board, because he took care of a lot of things. And, it was a personal stretch for me to learn how to handle finances and, learn how to invest my money, and how all these decisions that he did a lot of, it stretched me in every single way. And, but sometimes when you get honest about that, staying is harder than the stretch of going into the risk and the unknown and the uncertainty. That's when you just trust. You have to find the trust that you'll find your way through it, and just keep going.
Trust with yourself. That's probably one of the hardest muscles to build, if you haven't built it, is really learning to rely on yourself.
Yes, and I would tell, I did not have a huge muscle at that point about believing that I can handle all of this, being alone and handling things all on my own. So it was a big stretch. It was.
What you talked about valuing connection, and I'm just wondering what role your values played in your divorce process.
It was the roadmap. My values were the roadmap for handling the conflict that did happen. And it did happen. And, taking a deep breath when there was conflict and frustration, and not reacting. And, and even when I did, I was able to own it and work with it. But
all the things that you teach.
All the things I teach, I had to fully embody at the highest level during this. And, it was my values totally, I was just stay true. Every single time there was a conflict or there was something that was just like, oh my gosh, what's this gonna cause? And I don't know if we're gonna make it and still be friends. And I just stayed true to my values of connection and finding the win-win. That's a thing I go with. Like, is there, in any challenging situation, can I find the win-win? Like, what is so important to me? What is a yes and a no for me? Knowing that for yourself is so important through a divorce. Hear me? Becoming clear about what is my yes and my no. What can I give up? What can I let go of? How can I see through his eyes and honor him, and not just make him wrong because I feel like crap. Right, or I feel so guilty how I want to make him wrong.
And the other kind of spectrum of that is placating, is just kind of like giving in and like not being true to yourself. And
absolutely.
That's one of the I think great guiding principles, is really getting clear with yourself about what is your yes, what is your no.
Yeah, and that's not hard. That is hard because we're a culture of external, doing what we should do, right? Or, what looks good or whatever.
Everybody else's rules.
Yes, everybody else. Like, what do they think I should do? And to learn to actually ask the question, what is important to you? What is your yes and no? That took me to a whole new level, being able to do that, and communicating that. And, when that wasn't what he wanted, right? And so learning how to communicate and stay in the conversation without getting so mad at, so mad and letting those triggers, right, take over. And then just ruin, because you don't get anywhere in that place. Mm-hmm. So just learning to stay true to my values, learn. I got a lot of support during that time, like I said, about reflecting on where I'm willing to give up and what I'm not. I almost, because I have a part that would want the connection more, so I would give myself up. Mm-hmm. And I had to be careful with that and not do that.
I appreciate your honesty, because I think one of the things about collaborative divorce is people think, oh, it's going to be so easy.
Yeah, I know.
And it's, for everybody who's in agreement. And maybe it's easy to kind of walk away and just, forget. But the truth is that the collaborative divorce process was created to resolve conflict. So it is, that conflict is a very natural part of divorce. And
yes.
Learning how to kind of show up in a different way. One of the things we do in collaborative is we spend time asking the parties, what are your goals? Mm-hmm. And that is a time for people to get really clear about what their own personal values are, and to let those values guide and direct them. And you did that. You were such an amazing embodiment of that.
I so appreciated that part of the divorce with y'all, with Hargrave, because it made me really dig deep to say what is most important to me. Mm-hmm. Not just, let me get through this, so I don't have to feel this way. Like, let me just, here, you can have this, or being so mad that I'm going to hold on and say, no, I'm not giving in to that, for no good reason, right? For that process of checking in to see what my values are, what do I want, what is important to me, the way that was handled helped me get clear about what I was willing and not willing to do.
Do you remember how long your divorce lasted? Probably seemed like an eternity when you're in it.
I think it was only 6 months.
Yeah.
No, was it 6 months? Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think from the beginning, it was 6 months. From the beginning to the very end, it was 6 months.
So let's shift now and talk a little bit about life after divorce. You were honest. You shared with us that when you were in the divorce process, you really second-guessed your decision. Where are you now with that?
Well, first of all, my relationship with my ex is great. And I think I'm most proud of that, like being able to maintain that, because there was so much I respect about him and I do care about him. So that was huge. So for us to maintain that is great. And I feel like a completely different person. I am so much more in alignment with the way I'm living and my choices, and I know more who I am. I have learned to be alone, which is like, I need to do that. I just needed to do that. I had never done that, really. And so I feel so much more empowered. I know how to handle finances. I know I get to make mistakes and learn and grow from them. And I just feel so much more in my power. For sure. And I've taken my business to a whole nother level. It really stretched me into my passion and, being committed to that. Mm-hmm. And so I feel like a different person. I just feel calm and peace, more peace. Not that I don't have challenges, but I'm just saying.
And tell us a little bit about your relationship with your daughter. You said that was one of the great things that you feared, was that she would be angry at you and choose dad over you. And
yes.
Tell us how things are going.
I actually had a conversation with her last night. I said, I just want your feedback, what it was like for you. And she said, Mom, first of all, my relationship is amazing with my daughter. And so I'm so thankful for that. And a lot of it was my ability to, listen to her when she was, and handle her and listen to her through this process, right? But I was talking to her, and I said, tell me some of the things that, that you're thankful for with the way we handle it, and then some things that you're not, right? And she said, I'm so glad you did not put me in the middle.
That's so important.
She said, Mom, I've had friends that, I've watched their parents not get along, and the kids are in the middle, and it's horrible. And she said, for y'all not to do that was so impactful. Even though it was hard on me, it made it so much easier.
Yeah, that's some really wise words there.
Right. And, that's hard to do when you're really frustrated and going through a hard divorce, right? It's
a lot of times I think it's a very natural response that parents feel with their children is that, my child needs to know the truth of what I'm feeling. And we always tell people that they really don't need to know that. They don't need to know everything that you're experiencing. What they really need to know is that both parents love them. And that the parents are the decision makers, not the children.
That is so true. And I will say, one of the things there's two big things that we talked about last night. And she said, you didn't put me in the middle, and you didn't badmouth each other. And she said I'm so grateful for that, because I love you both, and that would have been horrible. And and then she said, you kind of let me, even though you didn't put me in the middle, you at certain times you brought me into the process where I felt like, so when I moved, I actually brought her with me. What do you think? And she was part of that process, right?
Oh, that's great.
And so and then we were flexible, even though we had structure of when she went to him and when she came to me, we also had some flexibility in that, where if she said, I'm just, I'm in the middle of studying, can I have 2 more days? I just need to stay put. We both allowed that, which she said gave her a sense of control. Even during uncertainty and transition, that she felt she had a sense of control over her life.
So she would have been about 14 at the time, and which can really be such a difficult time.
Yes,
for kiddos transitioning through divorce.
And she did have a little, she acted out in some ways and we had to sit down. Clark and I actually came together to handle those times.
And that's one of the takeaways when you're able to have a constructive, healthy divorce, that you can still be parenting together.
Which is, they need that. They need that. And now granted, we already had some. We agreed on how we parent. So that part was good. Yeah. But sometimes we didn't agree on certain things, the way he would handle it. And now I wasn't in the middle, right, to always manage everything. So he had to handle certain things, and there were certain things I didn't agree on. So we would have to have a conversation, about that. But then I had to learn to let go.
Oh, that's a hard one.
I had to let go and not control the way he did everything, right?
Yeah, it's a hard one.
Good. Yeah.
What does your future look like? What are you looking forward to?
Well, I can tell you that my idea of a relationship has definitely evolved, and so as I contemplate moving into, I'm not in that place quite yet, but I'm as I contemplate a new relationship, completely a different approach now, with me feeling more grounded in who I am, and not looking for someone to fill the void or to, take care of me, right? Or, it's a different experience now as I contemplate that, like how more equal and that it will be. And so I kind of look to the future with that and look forward to experiencing that type of relationship.
Just sort of being aware of old patterns in life.
Oh, yes.
And then,
because wherever you go, there you are, right?
You are.
So you can jump into a new one, but you're going to find
if you really haven't done the work, you'll probably be repeating that pattern. Is that what I hear you say?
And you can come coach with me.
I was going to say, going through the divorce process, one of the things you've mentioned is just your support team. And yes. Who showed up for you? Who was there for you in the divorce process?
Oh, Meg Hanshaw. She is, we have a nonprofit together and called IB Me, and it's to have created empowerment education. And so I was very into that with her, and she knew the kind of work I did, and she was also a coach. So she was my rock at the time and completely supported me in working through, what I was feeling, because you have to have somebody, some kind of way to process your feelings during this time. It's just overwhelming if you don't. So
that's good advice.
Yeah.
And just as an aside, do you do this kind of coaching?
Yes. Yes, I do. I mean, I work with quite a few people who are going through divorce, and my approach with them is to support them in everything we just talked about, right? Finding your truth, what's your yes and no, and helping them process these feelings, and being able to help them create a vision of what is possible on the other side, and not just get so enmeshed and drowning in the negative and all the emotions, right? But to stay connected to what you're building and what you're moving towards.
Mm-hmm. That's really good advice.
It's so important.
I think, in all the divorces that I've been a part of, I think one of the defining characteristics of somebody who, is able to move on to that next chapter is that ability to create a vision and not get lost in the hurt and the resentment and the anger. And it's hard to do.
It is hard to do when, during the divorce, when you face a divorce, especially if you didn't want it,
right? That's
really hard to do. However, if you can touch that and tap into that, it absolutely helps you deal with the anger and frustration. And that's fair to process those feelings. But to attach and get so enmeshed with them, you go nowhere, right? Mm-hmm. So there's that dance between allowing the feelings and letting them move, and then connecting to that, touching that vision, because the truth is, even when you think that it's the worst thing ever, it usually isn't.
It usually
isn't. It's usually like, oh, okay. Once you're through the other side, you're like, wow, okay, even I can see this was good, but look, you have more clarity when you're on the other side. And I think if I had to share any advice, any wisdom, is that, you will have that clarity. Like if you can just hold on to that and know that, if you choose it, if you choose to focus on what you're building and using it as a learning and growing time, the other side is amazing. And you don't always have to know every single thing. That was the one that I think that was a big thing for me, not knowing, not having all the answers, not, having control and certainty, and to lean into that at the beginning. Looking back now, I want to share with people, you don't have to know it all. Like, you don't have to have all the answers. What I noticed, because I believed this, right? A part of it is belief, that I believed I would get the support I needed, and it came. Every single thing I needed at the time came to me, or I would ask for help when I needed it, and things just came to me as I needed the help. And clarity would come as I needed it, and decisions, I didn't have to have it all figured out at the beginning. You
don't have to know what that next chapter is.
Exactly.
But you are preparing for the next chapter.
Yes.
And you've done such a marvelous job. I always say, divorce is not a life-defining moment. It's a period of change. And if you're open yourself to it, it can really be a period of transformation where you really set yourself up.
Absolutely. I mean, when I watch people go through such hard, chaotic conflict during divorce, and, I get it. Some people don't have these values, right? They don't have the roadmap and the commitment to handling it that way. And, that's really tough when that choice is that. But if you can reach, and find a way to have this kind of commitment and stay true it, even if one person in the divorce isn't doing that, if one person can do that and still set good boundaries but stay true to it, we need this. Like, our kids are so affected when we don't do it this way. It's already hard enough, right? But I feel like we're moving in this direction where we can learn to do this in this way into marriage, even though it's really hard, in a more connected way.
Yeah.
It's good for everyone.
In a life-giving way.
Yes.
And your ex-husband is happy?
Yeah, he's happy. He's like, he is moved. He knows that he's moved on, and it's good.
Yeah. And you're happy for him.
I'm happy. I'm happy for him.
That's great. As we kind of wrap up our time today, what message of hope do you have for somebody who's in that decision-making phase? What would you tell yourself who, back in those 3 years when you were struggling with the decision?
To, one, it is fair to look at the patterns, your beliefs and patterns. I mean, a lot of people don't really do that. They just kind of react and, or not react, right? And stay put. But to really look at and how you're showing up in the relationship and work with that before you just exit out, right? But to trust, kind of like what I said before, once you know and you have certainty that it's time for you to move on, that you don't have to have it all figured out. That's my biggest piece of wisdom. Yeah. It's like get your basic information, right, and understanding and reality of what you're going to face, but the rest of it you don't have to know. You can get support as you move forward. You don't have to know.
You just take that one step at a time.
You will get what you need as you move forward, and it is a stretch, but when you embrace that, it's worth it. It is.
Thank you, Kim, for your generosity of time and just sharing your experience. I know that it's going to touch people's lives, so we really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for the work you do. It's so important. So
if you would like to learn more about Kim, about the Wave Institute, about the work that she does, we will include links to her website so you can contact her. And if you like today's episode, we hope you'll hit subscribe and stay tuned for future episodes where we'll talk about the positive outcomes of divorce. Thank you.